Direct incoming, braking hard! Missile launch, I am taking evasive action.
You're cruising at over 85,000 feet. Outside your cockpit, the air is so thin that the sky isn't blue anymore. It's almost black. Then a warning tone comes alive. A surface-to-air missile has just been launched. In almost any other aircraft, this is the moment a pilot dives, turns hard, and deploys every countermeasure they have and prays. But not here. Not in the SR-71. Here, the response is almost absurdly simple. You push the throttles forward. The Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird was never meant to be just another spy plane. It was built to be the fastest air-breathing aircraft the world had ever seen, cruising at more than 3 times the speed of sound, higher than almost any fighter jet could climb, and faster than nearly every missile ever designed to bring it down. Over 3 decades of operational service, more than 4,000 missiles were reportedly fired at the Blackbird. Not one ever hit its target. So, what did it actually feel like to fly an aircraft that could outrun the very weapons built to destroy it? Today, we're climbing into the cockpit of one of aviation's greatest legends. Long before an SR-71 pilot ever touched the throttle, the mission had already begun in a small room lined with equipment that looked far more suited to a launch pad than a runway. At 85,000 feet, the atmosphere is so thin that losing cabin pressure for even a few seconds could be fatal. So every pilot wore a full-pressure suit, nearly identical to those worn by astronauts. Getting dressed alone took close to an hour. Pilots breathed pure oxygen long before the engines ever started. By the time the canopy closed, one thing was already obvious. This was never going to be an ordinary flight. Here is a detail almost nobody believes the first time they hear it. The SR-71 leaked fuel every single flight, without exception. On paper, that sounds like a catastrophic flaw in a multi-million-dollar aircraft. In practice, it was one of the most elegant engineering decisions of the entire program. Engineers deliberately left small gaps between the titanium skin panels because at 3 times the speed of sound, friction with the atmosphere heated the airframe ordinary. Then the pilot advances both throttles into afterburner, and the twin Pratt and Whitney J58 engines transform entirely. The acceleration doesn't hit like a fighter jet, with a single violent kick. Instead, it feels like an invisible hand pressing steadily forward, relentless and unbroken, minute after minute. The aircraft climbs past 70,000 feet, past 80,000, past 85,000. Outside the windshield, the horizon begins unmistakably to curve. The sky fades from deep blue into black. You are no longer flying through the weather beneath you. You are flying above it entirely. Then it happens. A tone sounds. The defensive systems have detected a missile launch hundreds of miles away. Ground radar has locked onto the aircraft, and the missile is climbing fast. In almost any other military aircraft, this is precisely the moment a pilot begins violent evasive maneuvers, hard turns, flares, chaff, anything to break the lock. The SR-71 crew followed a different checklist entirely. No sudden turns, no panic, no countermeasures deployed at all. Instead, the pilot simply pushed the throttles fully forward. The aircraft accelerated past Mach 3.1, then 3.2, then 3.3. And as the Blackbird gained speed, the missile below began losing energy. unable to keep pace with a target that was, quite literally, outrunning it. Eventually, the warning tone stopped. The missile had simply run out of speed before it ever ran out of fuel. Former SR-71 pilots have described their best defense not as maneuvering at all, but simply as going faster than anything sent to stop them. Flying faster than a missile came at an extraordinary cost. At full cruising speed, the SR-71 didn't just get hot, it physically grew larger. Friction with the thin upper atmosphere heated the titanium airframe so intensely that it expanded along its entire length, stretching the aircraft by several inches. The windshield, thick and quartz-faced, grew hot enough on the outside to cook an egg while the crew sat only inches away, kept alive by their pressure suits and a cooling system working at its absolute limit. Engineers had designed the entire aircraft around this expansion from the start. Panels that fit loosely on the ground fit perfectly once the Blackbird reached cruising speed, an aircraft that, in a very real sense, only became fully itself once it was flying faster than a rifle bullet. If this story's worth your time, it's probably worth a like. And if you'd like to see the next one, subscribing helps make sure you do. You might assume the most dangerous moment of any SR-71 mission was cruising at the edge of space, outrunning a missile at 3 times the speed of sound. It wasn't. The most dangerous moment came at the very end, landing. An aircraft engineered to survive extreme heat and extreme speed becomes, paradoxically, extraordinarily difficult to fly slowly. The same long, sleek fuselage that sliced effortlessly through the thin upper atmosphere made the Blackbird notoriously unstable at low speed. Pilots had to manage every approach with total precision, too fast, and they risked running out of runway. Too slow, and the aircraft could stall in a way that left almost no room for recovery. Add a cockpit still radiating residual heat from the flight, a fuel load calculated down to the pound, and a pilot who had spent hours confined inside a pressure suit, and touchdown became less a routine landing than the final exam of the entire mission. Every single flight ended with the same quiet truth. The machine that could outrun missiles still had to be landed safely by human hands, with absolutely no margin for error. Over more than 3 decades of operational service, the SR-71 flew reconnaissance missions across some of the most heavily defended airspace on the planet. By some estimates, more than 4,000 missiles were fired at it. None ever brought one down. That record was never luck. It was the direct result of a design philosophy that echoes through some of aviation's greatest engineering stories: speed and altitude as defense, rather than armor or weapons. The Blackbird carried no offensive armament whatsoever. Its only defense in the end was simply not being there anymore by the time a missile could ever arrive. The SR-71 Blackbird was retired in 1998, decades after its first flight, and its speed record for an air-breathing aircraft still stands today. It remains one of the only aircraft in history where the greatest danger was never the enemy trying to shoot it down. It was the sheer physics of flying at the very edge of what materials, fuel, and human beings could endure, and coming home to explain what it felt like. Some aircraft are remembered for the battles they won. The SR-71 is remembered for the battles it never had to fight at all. If you enjoyed this one, there's more where it came from. Subscribing means you won't miss the next. See you in the next video.